I got a confession to make. I've been a Dillon Brooks hater for some time now. And honestly, can you blame me? This disrespectful,
I don't care, he's old,
loudmouthed choke artist has done a pretty poor job of endearing himself to us, the NBA fans, over the years. And yet somehow these antics have earned him an $80 million contract. What do Houston Rockets see that I'm missing? And how does this role player take up so much real estate in so many NBA stars' heads? Well, I did some research, and it pains me to say this, but I think Dillon Brooks just may be the most misunderstood player in the league. So here are my main reasons why you're probably wrong about Dillon Brooks. Ever since his college days at Oregon, Dillon has had a reputation for being an incredibly talented on-ball defender. But when I looked into the numbers, I found it's actually pretty hard to back this up statistically. In his 7 years playing in the league, Dillon hasn't cracked the top list for any advanced defensive metrics, or garnered even a single vote for Defensive Player of the Year. So is Dillon's defense actually elite? Well, I looked into the stats some more and found out they may actually be skewed against him. More specifically by the fact that Dillon is actually such a good defender that he's tasked with covering the opposing team's best scorer every single night. And that would hurt anyone's statistics. In fact, in 2023, nobody guarded more possessions against all-star players than Dillon Brooks. And that doesn't include just talented guards like Darius Garland, but also much larger opponents like LeBron James. All this to say is that Dillon Brooks is one of the NBA's most versatile defenders, and the work he's being tasked to do night in, night out in the league is far from easy. Check out this game the Grizzlies played against the Warriors this past March. Dillon's defense on Curry is sensational. The way he contests and recovers, the way he moves his feet laterally. This is the defense of an elite on-ball defender, and the box score reflects it. The Grizzlies won this game 133-116. But perhaps even more impressive than the final score is the fact that Dillon held Steph Curry to just 16 points, the second fewest points Curry scored all last season. And this is Steph Curry we're talking about. Matthew Dellavedova almost died trying to cover this dude once. And yet, somehow, someway, Dillon made the task of shutting down Curry look almost possible. Plus, Curry wasn't the only Warrior whose skin Dillon managed to get under that night. So Dillon's defense is unquestionably an asset. But what about his offense? Well, that's a different story. Over the course of Dillon's career, his biggest problem has always been his shot selection. In the 2022 Western semifinals, Grizzlies fans wanted to pull their hair out as Dillon shot a miserable 5 for 19 from the field in a pivotal Game 4 against the Warriors, including a tragic 2 from 9 from 3. In the end, shooting performances like this were why the Grizzlies decided to move on from Brooks in the first place. But after just 10 games with the Rockets, NBA fans are starting to see a more mature offensive game from Dillon. And many are starting to wonder if maybe this notorious chucker has officially changed his ways. Since being traded to Houston, Dillon's shot attempts have gone from 13.6 per game to 9.8. And even with fewer field goal attempts, Dillon's points per game has only gone down about a half a point. Dillon is playing much smarter offensive basketball than he was with the Grizzlies, deferring when he's supposed to defer and shooting when he's supposed to shoot. And Dillon's three-point percentage has gone way up from this. Now clearly, his three-point percentage is going to tick down over the course of the season, but the point is, Dillon has been looking much more focused on the offensive end of the court lately, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to include more of this low-light compilation someone made. So his defense is elite and his offense is much improved, but I'd say neither of those things actually represent his greatest skill. So what's his greatest skill? Pissing people off. It's hard to know exactly when Dillon discovered his talent for being a total nuisance. But early signs of Dillon's talent can be spotted as far back as his sophomore year at Oregon, when the Ducks took on Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils. With just 10 seconds left in the game and the Ducks up 11, Dillon pulled a trigger on errant logo 3. And let's just say Coach K wasn't loving it. After the game, Coach pulled Dillon aside and appeared to voice his displeasure about Dillon's last-second heave, telling Dillon, quote, "You're too good of a player to do that." And though Dillon looked receptive to the criticism in the moment, he later told ESPN that, quote, he didn't feel like he did anything wrong. Later describing the incident to SB Nation's Pete Thamel, saying, quote, "That's my fire, that's my passion." Well, apparently that fire and passion has only grown stronger, because as of today, I'd say Dillon Brooks is the NBA's premier supervillain. Whether it be picking fights with Donovan Mitchell, or LeBron, or even Shannon Sharp. Dillon just can't seem to stay out of trouble, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. If NBA history tells us anything, it's that having a villain on your team can be a major asset. I mean, would the Pistons really have been the bad boys without Bill Laimbeer? Or would the Bulls have been able to compete for a second three-peat without acquiring Rodman? But perhaps the best example of successfully building around a villain comes from one of Brooks' greatest adversaries, Draymond Green. Before Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors were getting slapped around on the defense end of the court. In fact, in the season before drafting Green, the Warriors ranked dead last in defensive rebound percentage. But after Draymond's emergence as a bully under the boards, the Warriors' defense quickly improved, and Golden State went from last in the statistics to first. Just listen to this clip of Steve Kerr talking about Draymond's impact.
If Draymond's not back, we're not a championship contender. We know that.
You really think Steve Kerr would just say this for no reason? Kerr knows just how valuable Draymond's role is to the Warriors. And I think the same dynamic is already unfolding for Brooks and the Rockets. And that makes sense, right? Because even though these two have had their differences, Dillon has actually cited Draymond as one of his major inspirations.
I want to be like Draymond Green for this team.
Since Dillon's arrival in Houston's defensive rating has gone from second last to 5th so far this season. And it's not just Dillon's whose defense is contributing to this improvement. It's the whole team. Notoriously bad defenders such as Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun have appeared more locked in on the defensive side of the court this season. Now, major credit to the Rockets' new head coach Ime Udoka, but Dillon Brooks playing the villain role has added a serious backbone to this team. So when you break it down, Dillon actually has the markings to be an extremely effective two-way player. A guy who can lead your defense on the perimeter, be effective off-ball offensively, and guarantee that your team won't get pushed around. So then why does everybody hate this guy?
The seal, Payton right down the middle, he's fouled hard. And Payton's in pain.
Oh, right. So admittedly, signing Dillon Brooks comes with a fair amount of baggage. Whether it be his weird one-sided feud with LeBron, or the fact that he averages more unnecessary nut taps per 36 than the rest of the league combined, this dude can't help but cause trouble. And a lot of time it's corny and goes too far. So for those of you who found themselves enraged by this video's thesis, I get it. Your hate for Dillon Brooks is fully warranted. Maybe the Rockets are just getting him ready for the CBA. But Dillon is far from a finished product. And in sports, we love a redemption story, right? So why not Dillon? I think the Rockets made a smart gamble betting on Brooks. If Brooks can buy in offensively, learn a little self-control, and limit his creepy staring, then I think Dillon could truly grow into being one of the great role players of this generation. And hey, even if it doesn't work out, at least we know it'll be entertaining, right?